their children end up going into the train from an early age. And Bertrand Russell is no exception. And he worked for the Crown, Bertrand Russell, Lord Bertrand Russell. And this article said that his father was Lord Amberley, and mother was Catherine Louisa Stanley. Very important, because I said the wife, because you catch on to the revolutionary side of it too often through the wife too, And she was a suffragette at one point. And the suffragette movement, by the way, was a wealthy class at the top who were also communists. Many of them left London eventually, went over to live in Russia after the revolution, and during the revolution, in fact. And they were not just friendly, just chaining themselves to railings outside number 10 Downing Street and so on in London. Before that, they were involved, some of them, in bombings, anarchist bombings. So anyway, it says that that was his wife, Catherine Louisa Stanley. And she was pally, it says, with Mazzini, Viscountess Amberley, daughter of 2nd Baron Stanley of Alderley. So this is what Russell said in one of his books, scientific societies, because the whole idea was to get a scientific society running. Scientific society are as yet in their infancy. It may be worthwhile to spend a few moments in speculating as to possible future developments of those that are oligarchies. It is to be expected that advances in physiology and psychology will give governments much more control over individual mentality than they now have, even in totalitarian countries. Fichte laid it down that education should aim at destroying free will. I've mentioned this before, so that after pupils have left school, they shall be incapable throughout the rest of their lives of thinking or acting otherwise than as their schoolmasters would have wished. Now, this isn't a guy who just speculated in some kind of wish fulfillment pastime. He knew all the top scientists of his day in social sciences and psychology and all that, and he had his own experimental school. He was given a charter to run an experimental school, where what he did with his children, as a so-called ultra-progressive school back in the 1920s, would have got anybody else maybe hung in those days, because he was trying to do sexual development and sexual interaction with school children, get them all to see if they could, the more they would become promiscuous, and actually give them praise for their behavior, to see if they, and then follow up to see if they got older, if they would even bother getting married or just have multiple partners, which is all part of the destruction of the family unit, coming from a British lord, right? So he goes into that, and he says, he said that diet, of course, this is a famous for injections and injunctions, will combine from a very early age to produce the sort of character and the sort of beliefs that the authorities consider desirable, and any serious criticism of the powers that be will become psychologically impossible. Gradually, by selective breeding, right, the congenital differences between the rulers and the ruled will increase until they become almost different species. A revolt of the plebeians, would become as unthinkable as an organized insurrection of sheep against the practice of eating mutton. In like manner, the scientific rulers will provide one kind of education for ordinary men and women, and another for those who are to become holders of scientific power. Ordinary men and women will be expected to be docile, industrious, punctual, thoughtless, and contented. Of these qualities, probably contentment will be considered the most important. In order to produce it, all the researches of psychoanalysis, behaviorism, and biochemistry will be brought into play. And of course, what they really brought in was massive entertainment society to keep them docile, and also a program on because they copy behavior that they see in movies and so on, and fashions. And it says that all the boys and girls will learn from an early age to be what is called cooperative, that is, to do exactly what everybody else is doing. initiative will be discouraged in these children, and insubordination without being punished will be scientifically trained out of them. Well, look what's happening today with awful getting banned and getting warned on their Facebook accounts and their other YouTubes and all the other social media platforms that are out there that they're onto, and you're all getting trained again to cooperate or shut up, or you get punished. You see, this didn't suddenly come along, and this is planned long ago. All the boys and girls will learn from an early age to be what is called cooperative, right? So you all be doing the same things, right, as everybody else. Second, as regards population, if there is not to be a permanent and increasing shortage of food, crisis, COVID, agriculture must be conducted by methods which are not wasteful of soil, and increase of population must not outrun the increase in food production, rendered possible by technical improvements. To deal with this problem, it would be necessary to find ways of preventing an increase in world population. If this is to be done otherwise than by wars, pestilences, and famines, it will demand a powerful international authority. A powerful international authority, right? So pestilences and famines, and wars. What do you hear right now? What's the whole thing about? Oh my God, it's just... it's a disease. It's going through the world, and you can't. The economy is crashing because no one's allowed to work. That's the key to it. No one's allowed to work. Lock down all the healthy people. It's all by design.